I hope you've been enjoying this session. I've been enjoying it and hearing about the kinds of innovations. Oh, thank you. that are coming every day. I mean, you will not be living your grandparents' old age. This is a moving target, what old age is and how people respond to it. And it's such a pleasure to get to talk to you, Joanne, because you have done so much in a relatively short time at the helm of AARP regarding innovation. For a lot of people don't think of AARP. They don't associate innovation and AARP, but they do now. Anybody who's following it. The work you've been doing is extraordinary. Tell us more about what's going on.
Well, great. Well, thank you, Laura, because I think it's so important because AARP now has 38 million members. We're the largest membership organization in the world. Our magazine, ATM, the magazine, just surpassed People as the most read magazine. So we're very excited about that. But as you said, I think one of the core values that we are instilling in everybody who works with or for AARP is that it's our responsibility to be everyday innovators in aging. And so as part of that, we've started investing in startup companies, like some of the ones you just saw, about how do we help people live their best life, regardless of what age that is. We're also having a whole host of startups inside of AARP where we're co-creating around artificial intelligence and looking at all of those issues. Obviously, a lot of work around medication management and caregiving services, as well as the autonomous vehicles and the opportunity that that's going to have to solve some of the issues around isolation. But more generally, how do we come up with ageless solutions? So not just coming up with solutions for the old, but how do we create solutions that will benefit the young so it's not pitting generations against each other? You know, when we did the work out in California addressing sidewalk issues for people who may need assistance getting across the street, our biggest partner there were mothers and fathers with strollers who that curvature in the sidewalk actually benefited them as well. And I think it's exciting for all of our staff to be at the forefront of how we can change this concept around aging and focus it more on living regardless of how old you are or what age you are. So very exciting about that. And that actually fits into a lot of the work that I know you have been doing out at the center about, you know, how do we look at generations and address so that it's not just pitting the old against the young, but coming up with solutions that address multiple generations' problems.
It's true that when you focus a conversation on aging, it's a very different conversation than when you focus a conversation on longevity.
Yes.
Right? When we started the Center on Longevity at Stanford a decade ago, for a lot of people, they would hear about the Center on Longevity and sort of do wink, wink, you know, you're really talking about Center on Aging, aren't you? And we're not. Most universities have centers on aging. Most of them focus on the very important, I must say, just struggles with frailty and dementia and caregiving. When you have a center on longevity, we bring in pediatricians. Philip Pizzo is a pediatrician. And we have as many pediatricians involved in our center as geriatricians, labor economists, people from the education school, from the business school. Because if we think about all of life and stretching it out, it's about everybody. It's not about one generation. Not to mention the fact that if we only focus on old, we're going to have that experience of Groundhog Day where every generation that arrives at old age goes, oh gosh, maybe I should have lived my life differently. And we've got to go beyond that.
Well, and I think the conversation that was had earlier today around the 100-year life.
Yeah.
I mean, we are not just adding 10 to 15 years at the end of life. We're going to have to redesign our whole life course and continuously educate ourselves. So not just go to high school and college and grad school,
Right.
but throughout the course of 50, 60, 70 years, continue to upgrade our skills.
Right.
You know, one of the things that I've been most fascinated about is I've talked to CEOs around the country about what are the new skill sets. You know, we have a growing group of 50-plus folks who are overly educated, experienced, reliable. What are the jobs of the future? And I think most CEOs will tell you, besides robotics and data analytics, they have no idea what skill sets they're going to need 5 years from now. And so this constant reinvigorating of the educational process, and the fact that I know for AARP, they were asking me backstage about AARP versus ARP versus the American Association of Retired. We dropped American Association of Retired Persons some 15, 16 years ago in recognition of the fact that our members aren't retiring. They want to continue to work. And so whether that's full-time or part-time, or whether they want to take a sabbatical, and I think that's what you're going to see a lot more of like it used to be, somebody worked at the same company for 30 years. People are going to have the opportunity to have 2 to 3 or perhaps 4 totally different kinds of careers during the course of a 100-year life. And so the opportunity to step back, take those sabbaticals, get re-energized, re-educated, move into a totally different field is going to be commonplace. And so we're going to have to rethink traveling human resources, so that the human resources and healthcare components actually travel with the person rather than the company. And the conversations we've had in the past about pensions and retirements, how will we make sure that people are saving earlier, longer, and also living healthier at a much earlier age? It's a lot to think about.
It's a lot. There's a lot to, really all of life will change. I can't think of any of life's fundamentals, the family, education system, politics, financial security, all of these aspects of our lives will change in coming years. When you talk about people working longer, we also have conversations often in public discourse about aging workforces and the concern that employers have about aging workforces. And one of the things, again, that I think gets missed is they're not just aging workforces, they're going to be multi-generational workforces. And that's something we never had in history in the workforce. It really has been young people at work and not older people. The few studies that have been done on multi-generational teamwork are exciting. It looks like they're more productive than either all old groups or all young groups.
In fact, at AARP, we have 4 generations in the workplace now at our headquarters and in our state offices around the country. And that's going to be the norm moving forward. People are going to have in some cases 6 to 7 sets of grandparents at some form throughout the course of the lifetime. It's exciting to see what the possibilities are, but also how are we going to manage that in the workplace. We expanded our intern program, where we bring in several hundred young people out of colleges, but in the last couple of years, we've also expanded our 50-plus interns. So we have 50-plus interns who perhaps have retired and they want to come back and sort of work and find purpose and meaning in some of the work that they're doing. And I think it's a wonderful thing to see those multiple generations. And a lot of the corporate America are creating positions for executive or long service employees to come back in and serve as mentors to some of their younger workers. And those are full-time positions and as a mentor in the actual workplace. And I think that's a wonderful opportunity.
That's great. Again, we hear people are so worried about having a lot of old people in the society. And again, take this as a reframe. Think of, we've never had societies where we have more adults than children, which should be the best thing that ever happened to children, right? So there doesn't have to be a child around that doesn't have an older person invested in them. And certainly grandparents are doing that, and there's a lot of evidence now that grandparents are really changing the quality of life for their grandchildren. And then every once in a while I'll meet somebody who says, yeah, but I don't have a grandchild. My daughter, my sons decided not to have kids. I say, go get one.
Because there are a whole
plenty
lot of
around.
people out there.
There's a lot of them.
And
there's some data on school-age children, too, suggesting that one of the best predictors of high school graduation in at-risk kids is the presence of an adult in addition to the parents who are crazy about them. It can be a grandparent, but it can be a neighbor, a friend. So in having the resources, having enough of us to go around.
Involved in their lives.
Yeah.
Well, a friend of both ours, Mark Freeman,
Yes.
started a program maybe some of you have heard of it called Experience Car, and AARP acquired Experience Car several years ago. But the concept is that you have an older adult who actually goes into K through 12, in this case K through third grade classrooms, and help them and the teachers with reading. And so we worked with Johns Hopkins to make sure we validated what the impact was going to be on the students. And obviously there was a huge increase in the reading level of students, but an even bigger impact on the adult who were going into the classrooms and the service that they were providing in a maternal, paternal, grandparent situation. Their impact of them finding more meaning and purpose in their own lives by volunteering at a neighborhood school was even bigger than the impact on the children in the classroom. So I think that's an important aspect to keep active, keep engaged. It's more about living than it is about aging, and I think we're going to all be in a good place.
There's a lot of change going on, and Joanne, we are so lucky to have you running things in Washington there at AARP.
I wouldn't
Thank
say
you.
that. Thank you all very much. We hope
Thank
you
you.
enjoy the morning.
Look forward to working with you.
Thank you.
Thank you all.